What's up with this?
I don't know. And
hello and welcome to World Sand Project. I'm Shelley Carney and we're about to tell you some really interesting stuff about sand.
I'm getting a little bump in there. I wonder if it's picking it up on the outside.
I don't know. What the heck is going on?
Okay, we're going to switch out of that and just go to intros. Oh, I'm Toby Younis, and yeah, not only are we going to talk about sand, we're going to show you what I think is the most beautiful sample that we've seen so far in our collection. So stick with us. But as usual, a little bit of a housekeeping.
Housekeeping, you want towels?
Because towels are very handy when you go out to the beach that we're going to talk about today. Make sure that before you leave today, you like our video. YouTube likes it when you like our video. Share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, the entirety of your social network so that we can
grow the channel.
And then last but not least, if you're not already a subscriber, this would be the ideal time to click on that subscribe button. And then after you've got that, you want to click on the... Okay, that's better. Notifications bell, so that way every time we start a live stream or we launch a live stream, you will be immediately informed and
in the know.
Because there is nothing in life better than having towels and being in the know. So we want to remind you of our mission. Our mission is to make the world aware of the problem that we have with the use of sand as a resource behind water and air. It is the most consumed resource. And we're using it faster than the planet has the ability to replenish it. And it's a very long process to replenish it. It's not an easy process, and we're not keeping up. If you want to learn more about it, there's a playlist on our channel. Go to the playlist and watch a couple of the videos, especially the TED Talk that's done by Vince Beiser. And you'll get a good sense of the issue and what we're dealing with, okay? So I'm going to switch over now to the screen, and this collection of images is listed. The link to this collection of images is in the description box below, so if you'd like to go back to them sometime, you're welcome to do that. So let me switch to window shot, and we're going to open it up. So the area that we're talking about today is this area down here. It is called Pfeiffer Beach. It's on Big Sur. Sur is the Spanish word for south. And it is just south of Miami, south of Monterey Bay, about 3/4 of the way between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And it's a beautiful, beautiful area. Pfeiffer Beach itself is just below that. You can see right here, here's Monterey. That's the Monterey Bay. And Carmel by the Sea. The reason I know this area is because when I was in the service, I was at Monterey for the Defense Language Institute to learn a language before I went overseas. And then immediately after that, I went north of San Francisco to Petaluma, to Rock Ranch for target area orientation training. What a great name is that? So I spent some time in the area, and it's just beautiful. I do have a better map, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into 3D mode here. So the two most prominent things about Pfeiffer Beach in California is this sand that's collected here. And it's the result of a couple of things. There's a stream that you don't see in this shot that brings sand down from the surrounding mountains. As you can see, the mountains come right up to the beach. There's very little construction in this area just because it comes right up to the beach, and I think that's why it's so protected. But one of the features of this area is something called Keyhole Arch, and at Pfeiffer Beach, and we're going to see some pictures of that as well. So what I thought I'd do is, before we go on and talk a little bit more about that, this is actually the 3D image of it, and if I scroll in, you can see how it converts to 3D. But there's lots of folks that have taken panoramic cameras down there, or not more than panoramic, 360 cameras down there, and they posted them here to Google. So I'm going to take the little yellow guy, and I'm going to pop him down right about here, I'd say. So because what I want you to see is Keyhole. So that's looking towards the north. Let me align it just a little bit. So that's directly north. So if you continued up that direction, eventually you'd get to Monterey Bay. As you swing around, you'll see the
In the
keyhole
shadow
arch.
of the person
Yeah,
using the
of
camera.
using the camera. Well, there's a couple of images, and I'll do another one where they're lined up at sunset, because there's a point at which, and certain times of the year, the sun actually, because that's we're now facing, as you can see. And let me get it directly west here. So that's directly west. That's a little bit south of west, and that's where the keyhole arch is. And there are certain times of the year where people will go out and they'll just line up with their tripods to get the sunset shining through the keyhole. I'll try and get one of those. But it's a beautiful area. This is kind of looking towards where where I actually made the first of these images. But as you can see, it's just beautiful, and you can't see it as much here because of the lighting. But the mountains have a reddish brownish tint to them, and they produce some of the sand that we're going to see today. I've got some photographs of it, so you get a better sense of it. But let me see if what I can do is drag the little yellow guy to a place where I had this one great panorama with people just standing around. There was one even more than this, right? But they're waiting for that. You can see it's about sunset. This one was made in January of 2019, so they're dressed for the weather, but they're waiting for that sunset shot that comes through the keyhole. So it's a very popular area, and you can see this one has a little bit better color rendition, so you can see the red and purple sands as it combines with the white. And what's really funny about it is when I was making the sample, I put it in one of those little quartz jars. They separate from each other just naturally, so they must have different specific gravities, because when I tapped it to kind of level it out, the white moved over to one side and the red moved over to the other. You can see it. You can see it in the images that I'm going to share. So that's what the beach looks like. I'll go back here one image, right? And the trail leads down from here. This is the trail that gets you down to it. It's actually very hard to find. It's on Sycamore Canyon Road, and you can pass. There's not a big sign there, and you can go right by it and miss it if you're not aware of where it is. But during the summer months, as it warms up, there's it's like any other California beach, and has the addition of not only the colored sand but the keyhole arch, so that you can be touristy about it, and it doesn't get a lot of traffic. So this is the sign to the entrance of the day use area. This is actually across the road from the entrance to where the beach is, and as you can see, it's part of Los Padres National Forest, but it's also part of the California Coastal Conservancy. And the California Coastal Conservancy, or 3C as they call it, was evolved out of Proposition 20 that was passed by the California State Legislature in 1974. I've talked about it before. That protects the California coast for everybody's use. You can't build on a beach like this. You can't own it. It belongs to everybody as far as California is concerned. And this is one of those areas that's protected by the California Coastal Conservancy. That's a drone shot somebody did of the keyhole arch. This one is done by Bryce Wheeler. He made this in July of 2019. Great shot, Bryce. Really well done. That's a close-up made by George P., September of 2019, and it hasn't quite got the sunset yet, but it does. This is one of the streams that comes down from the mountains, pools right around the bottom, the bottom of that rocky range that you saw, and then as it overflows onto the beach, and it brings some of that pink and purple sand with it, because it's coming from the same set of mountains in the area. So this is a shot by Joe Traveler. I get a lot of shots on the California coast from Joe Traveler. He must just go up and down the coast. But as you can see, this is the beginning of that pink and purple sand. And at this point, it's hard to tell whether it's being washed in from the ocean or it's actually being stripped down from the rocks above it. It's actually a combination. It's first stripped down from the rocks. It's laid over the sand, washed out by the ocean, and it just keeps recirculating itself, getting finer each time. Here it is, as you can see, coming down from that little stream. This is where the stream leads into the beach, and you can see it's actually bringing that red and purple sand with it. And this is a real close-up. And again, these are all shots that were made by Joe Traveler. So there's no doubt that it's got that. Now, this is that dark. This tends to be leaded, and I'll show you how the magnet affected it. It's got a lot of metal in it, and that's probably right from there, and it's probably coming from exactly the same location that the pink and purple grains of sand are coming. So this is our sample. As you can see, it does have a pinkish look to it. There is some white in there, and it's very different from that red sand that we got from Doug Carver out of Prince Edward Island. This does have more of a pink than a reddish brown look like the sand that he provided. So we separated it. We separated the sand into 3 containers. This is, of course, our big glass petri dish, and I did that so that we wouldn't have that rainbowish background of the plastic petri dishes. And then this is my small quartz container right here. And as you can see, as I tapped it, you can actually see where the white sand moved to one side and the red sand moved to the other. And again, the only thing I can think of, there was no way I could do that intentionally. I just kind of tapped it on the table. Let me see so this is what let me go to full screen for just a second. So this is what the sample looks like. That's a 3-gram bottle that we use for our samples. But again, as I tapped it, it separated itself, and you can see the separation as we look at it under the stereo microscope. So I did the magnet test on this, and in comparison to some of the samples that we've had recently, not last Wednesday, but before, we had some beach samples from Florida and from the Pine Barrens, or Pine Barrens. It's not Pine Barrens, it's Pine Lands, National Resource, right? Reserve, Pine Lands National Reserve. So we got 0 in the way of any magnetic attraction out of that. But every time we've tested one of these California beaches, they test very high with magnet. There's magnetite, there's probably iron in there. And although some of the crystals kind of get caught up, I don't think there's any iron in them, but they do get caught up in it. But as you can see, it covers the magnet. So there's a lot of it in there, and you could see it in the stream. So this is the first picture I took of it, and this really got me excited because I saw so much color, different colors in it, including a lot of the pink. A little bit closer, and you can see the grains are very much unlike the grains that we saw from the John Day River on Wednesday. There's a lot of quartz, but quartz in different colors. They're all quartz in one way or the other, but there's yellow quartz and pink quartz and purple. There's red, various shades in between, and of course there's the clear quartz here. Some of the blacker rocks can be the magnetite, but they weren't attracted, so it's something else. Could be some obsidian coming from the mountains. This is a smoky quartz, and smoky quartz is quartz that's got a little bit of aluminum in it. But this, I shot this when I was kind of setting up the polarizing microscope, and it was just such a unique sand grain that I took a shot of it so that I could include it here. I'm hoping that I haven't moved the table enough, because all it takes is me bumping into our microscope table to move it. But if it is, you can see that. But what was great about this is, first of all, it was translucent quartz, but it was that smoky color that comes from being mixed with a little bit of aluminum, and then it had that bright red inclusion in it that was also transparent. So it was just really very, very good looking. I was really impressed with it. I got. Are we okay? Mm-hmm. We're live. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me go over. I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to switch over to the stereo microscope, and that's what it looks like under the microscope. Let me make some exposure adjustments in there, because it's neither bright enough or contrasty enough. Let's add a little bit of contrast to it. So that's the sample that I took, and what I'm going to do, I'll be turning away from you for just a second. But what I did was, of course, I'm going to give you something to compare it to, and that is, there's our quarter. So you can compare our quarter to the size of the sample and the grains of sand in there. But you can see right there, it's been changed a little bit, but you can see right there where the pink and colorful grains separated from the white quartz grains. And then as you go across, you'll see the other bigger separation. I mean, it's really pretty obvious. I mean, if you were to take a sample, from it, this is the pink side and this is the white side of that little miniature quartz bowl that I've got it in. So as you can see, there is a lot of color in it, different colors, and they're mostly translucent. There are some solids, some opaques in there, but there's a lot of translucent colors, green and the white and the pink and the dark red, which they refer to as purple. That one right there is almost purple. But let's zoom in about halfway now and take a look. I'm going to go to 2x and focus on it and get a little bit more detail from it. And that's just one area. And as you can see, there's just all kinds of things happening at blue and red and green and translucent clear and the pink just in that one area. Let me slide it across and you can see the transition as it goes from primarily, or it's got the white into the pink area. It's hard to tell on the stereo microscope. But, there's three shades of green in there, including two translucent and a solid. So it's a pretty amazing sample. I mean, I was really happy to see how much color there was in it and the varieties of color and just, there's that one grain there that has got both the light green and dark green in it. So it really is, if you live in California or if you ever get to California, not that of course it's going to look this pretty when you're walking on the beach, but just to imagine that underneath your feet is this kind of beautiful color is really pretty amazing. Like I said, I was really excited to see it. These down here, I'm going to push up just a little bit. And to me, those pieces in the center there look, they're like shiny black, very obsidian looking. And we do have some of the compound stuff, the ones that look like igneous rock, like this one here. You can tell it's got a lot of minerals as you just kind of focus through it. You can see it's almost like the igneous rocks that we saw out of last Wednesday's sample at the John Day River. So let's zoom in one more level. We're going to go to let's go to 4.5x, almost 5, and give us a nice good look at that one right there. And you can see the dark ones are shiny, which to me implies that they're obsidian. I did see a little bit of, not magnetite, but galena, a little shiny galena in there. There's a mixture of the pink crystals with, up above it, you can see the orange and the bright red. I can't tell if they're garnets, only because there's so much color in all of this. That means when you get that kind of color in quartz, it just means it's being mixed with other minerals to get to that color. So it could very well be that. But when you get to garnet, that's what it is. It's quartz with enough. Let me see. It's not iron. It's I won't remember. But the obsidian, a lot of obsidian, and then we get to the kind of green area, and this to me looks like olivine, but I'm always looking for olivine, so I kind of want it to be. Olivine has that vitreous surface, and it is opaque. So that's what I think it is, and you see a lot of that. We've got a sample coming from Hawaii that's olivine, but it's translucent because it's volcanic. So we're going to see some of that. So, I'm looking at yellow over on the side there. I'm looking at kind of a light tan there, dark red, pink, green, blue. I mean, this literally, and I'm sure I'm going to imagine that there are other samples that we will see like this, but up to now, I've got
Somebody wants to know who sent the sample.
No one sent the sample. I was on eBay one day, And I was looking for, so I knew it was going to be very hard to get sand from the Great Sand Dunes National Monument. So I thought, what the heck? Let me go on eBay and see if somebody has a sample or something for sale. Well, I may have mentioned this before, but it turns out that if you go to eBay and you look for sand samples, there are literally thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands of them from all over the world. And this particular sample was, I purchased Pfeiffer Beach on eBay. I paid $1 for it. It was actually cost more to ship it. It was $3.48 for shipping. But I saw the pictures that the individual who was selling this sample had made of it. And I thought, gosh, because they had a microscope shot of it as well. And it was so inexpensive. And although I didn't have somebody send it to me, I just had to have it because it was so good looking. I also, by the way, did get some sand. I bought 3 other samples. I got a sample from the Great Sand Dunes National Monument. I got a sample from White Sands National Monument that they claim was not collected at White Sands, Alamogordo, which they can't because you're not supposed to take the sand from White Sands. And then I got a sand from the Wisconsin fracking sands. So we'll have those up in future episodes. But I guess I could say I kind of cheated on this one because I ordered it and it wasn't sent to us, but it was so beautiful I just couldn't pass it up. So got this from eBay, and go to eBay and check it out, because if you ever want to do this on your own and start collecting sand samples, apparently it's a thing. I had no idea. I mean, they sell these to people who make collections of sand. They don't necessarily have a YouTube channel or even a microscope, but they have little bags. You know how people used to collect matchbooks? They don't do it anymore because I don't think they even make matchbooks anymore, do they?
Why you can't take sand from White Sands?
Because it's a property administered by the National Park Service. White Sands is a national monument, and so you cannot remove sands from a national monument. You can't remove anything from a national monument because it is one of those properties that's managed by the National Park Service. So the White Sands the actual White Sands themselves extend outside the park in a direction towards Alamogordo. And if you're going to collect some, you find a place on the road where it comes right over the fence, and that's where you get it from.
Where
The
it
same
blows up on you.
Right. And the same thing goes for the Great Sand Dunes National Monument. You can't take it from the monument. The only way you can take it, and here's the secret everybody uses, the only way you can take it is, for example, if you're running through the sand dunes and your shoes filled with sand, you can drive out of the park with your sand-filled shoes. That's the extent of it. And you can, if you want to sample that, you can. But it is very, very white. I don't know what it looks like under a microscope because I haven't put it there yet. But we'll do that in a future episode. So, I cannot tell a lie. I cheated on this one because it was just so beautiful. So, great looking grains of sand of all colors and varieties of colors. So I did see one, and I haven't been able to get back to it. It actually looked like there was a miniature snail shell attached to it. It isn't this one. This one is actually two pieces kind of glued together for however nature does that. But there was one that to me looked like a miniature snail shell. And I have, of course, as you're going through this, it should have been one I should have taken a picture of, because as you're going through it, there's so much detail in here. And the motion, I'll just never get back to it. So let me just scroll across back to that pink side so you can see some of that real pretty color. One last time before we move over to the polarizing microscope. Now, to me, and I'm later on after Shelley leaves tonight, after all our shows, I'm actually going to take a photograph of this, and I'm going to have a print made from it, because I just think when people look at that and you explain to them, no, that's not a set of gems, that's sand. I would just love to be able to do that when somebody comes over. So I'm going to have a print made of that. So, and by the way, I'm seriously considering. So I have a 4-inch by 6-inch dye sublimation printer, and I have a bunch of 4-inch. They're larger than 4-inch. They have their frames with 4x6 mats in them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll start using those as giveaways if you have any interest in that. We might, I'll just take an image like this, put it in a matted frame, and then we'll give it away on our shows.
Hooli wants to know, is this legit sand? It seems too magical.
Yeah, it does. It really is. I'm telling you.
Toby, I don't know if you missed it, Hooli, but at the beginning, Toby showed pictures of the beach, and you could see how pink it was, just laying on the beach.
Yeah. So I think that piece right there to me looks like galena, the metallic look to it. And I have seen a lot of it. This, to me, looks like obsidian because it even has the little white spots that... Pull your obsidian out there. So we have this... Shelley has a collection of crystals and other stones, the one with the spots. So this... Let me go back to full frame for just a second. So this is obsidian. This is a polished obsidian. But as you can see, it's the variety that has the white spots on it, the little white spots. And if you look at that shot right there, that one right there, it's kind of a miniature version of this, a sand-sized version of this with the... let me get it a little bit more in focus here. So that to me looks like obsidian. So it's got some beautiful colors all the way through it. All right.
Black licorice jelly bean.
Yeah. So black. That's cute. So let me go back and let's show Holly the pictures. So Holly, the place that we were talking about, I'm going to go back so I can pick that one. This is the area that we're talking about. It's called Pfeiffer Beach. It's in Big Sur, California. I don't know why that does that. It doesn't always focus the first time. So there we go. So there's Pfeiffer Beach in Big Sur, California, south of Monterey, about 3/4 of the distance between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And then we went through it, and let me get to it. So this is some of the sand from the beach. As you can see, it's got that color to it. It's washed down from the surrounding mountains. And so it's got the pink, purple, and black sands, but what we're looking at, you'll see a lot of the pink grains in it, and it really is almost magical. It is kind of I did tell everybody that this sample was not sent to me. I was actually looking for samples of... Oh, good idea. We're going to play the waves while we're looking at this. So this sample was not sent to me. I'm going to get back to north here. There we go. I was looking for samples of sand from white sands. I've told this story already. I hope you're not bored by it. I was looking for this sample of sands, White Sands National Monument and Great Sand Dunes National Monument. And I saw, as eBay is presenting these things to me, it showed me this sample. And I ordered it from eBay. It was just so beautiful. So, okay. Let's switch over to the polarizing microscope. I'm going to go back to full frame right now, and we'll switch over.
Tony feels more serene now.
Yeah, the waves.
Ocean with sounds.
So the only thing I have to... Ouch. Okay, let's see if this is going to... Every once in a while it just chokes on this. Oh. So it lost that device. Let's see if it picks it up again. Oh, that's a good sign. All right.
It is.
Yeah, it actually is. I've got to get. All right. So hang on. Oh, no, that is not a good sign. Hang on. Yeah, let me turn on the light, the polarizing light, and let me turn on the microscope right there, and let me see it. It's put it down to, I need to make it 1920 by 1080, so it's high resolution. There we go. So that's I think it's, let me make sure. Yeah. So this is that piece that I was telling you about. Let me change the polarization just a little bit so you can see how translucent it is. That's the piece that I was talking about that is actually quartz with a little bit of aluminum mixed in that gives it that smoky quartz look. And then the red inclusion was just amazing. So let's see what else we got under the microscope. Under the polarizing scope. Of course, you can always see the color that is reflected back to you from the crystal quartz. And because our depth of field, these grains, as far as the microscope magnification is concerned, are huge. And I think I'm at, oh, I am at 10x. Let's go to 5x so we get a little bit broader look at this stuff. So you can see some of the color that comes out of the crystal quartz. And I'm going to move this back just a little bit. And I'm just going to scroll across this to see if there's anything really interesting. You'll see some of that, this black stuff that I thought was obsidian right there. And it just has such a dark kind of absorb the light look to it. I got to believe it's obsidian, which it's got that shiny, that glassy look on it. And if I play with a polarizer on it, I don't get anything out of it, right? It goes straight to gray, and that's the result of the polarizer not knowing what to do with it. So I've got to believe the pure black stuff is obsidian as opposed to magnetite. Let me see if I can find one of the colorful. I saw a lot of color in some of the quartz pieces.
Tony says, would the correct color of laser and the vibrating table separate out the different colors?
I think if you put it, I imagine you're thinking about like a vibrating table that you would use in gold processing gold. I imagine it would, because you get a sense just the way it divided by. I mean, what little motion I gave it, the little tiny, put the cup down and give it a little shake. So all I was trying to do was level it out, so I didn't have to worry about focus, and that separated the two colors, the pink from the quartz. So they must have a different. There must be something in the difference. I can't imagine it's all quartz. So I would assume it had the same specific gravity, unless the pink pieces will have some additional, minerals in it. So like the smoky quartz has aluminum in it. So I don't know what the pink is. I have to look that up to find out what makes it pink. But I imagine the difference is specific gravity and it just doing what it is naturally. So I would have to assume what you describe as, if you were processing it on a gold vibrating table, I think you could separate it out if you had to. But part of the neat thing about this sample is the broad variety. It's hard to imagine that it all comes from the same beach until you take a look at one of those photographs that somebody has made, and you realize it's literally their sand on the beach, and it like all other sand, it took thousands, if not millions, of years to get to that point. Oops, so I got to go around this way. Let me move this over. So one of my objective lenses is just longer than the other, so it hits the Petri dish. So what I'm trying to do is get one of the more colorful. So what's interesting about these two microscopes that I have is that the knobs for moving the stage in each direction, X, Y, the knobs are exactly the opposite from one to the other. So I'm having a hard time trying to memorize them. So here's a beautiful quartz piece that's reflecting back some of the polarized light in it. I'm going to take that picture. That's too pretty of a picture to pass up, huh? Let me just take that image and put it in. I just put it in that folder there so we can add it to our collection up on photos. Oops, I didn't give it a name. Let's see. Sorry, didn't mean to make you guys sit through this. But like I said, it's too nice a photo to pass up. So, really good looking sample. I will shoot some more images either late this evening or over the weekend, and I will add them to the collection on Google Photos so that you guys can see some of this. because, like I said, they're just amazing. The other thing that I noticed about this sample compared to the one that we did with from the John Day River the other day was that it didn't have any microgems in it. It didn't have the same sort of construct like it was a igneous rock, and then when you crack the igneous rock, you'd see some of those microgems inside the crevice that you made. So this, in that sense, was very different from that. It has the sand grains, but it doesn't look like it has the microgems. But again, this is one that I found earlier, and I'm gonna zoom in on this now that I can. Let's see, is that gonna work? Yeah, just barely makes it. But as you can see here with this particular, oh no, I thought that was the same one. I'm sorry. I had one where you could see the quartz and then you could see the reddish color. And there's one that's just, I mean, if I didn't know better, I would say that's just a beautiful ruby there. So it's just got this same color. It's got what are referred to as inclusions, little mistakes in it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. So I hope you enjoyed this sample as much as I did. I thought it was a beautiful sample. I'm going to make lots of photos of it to add to the album that's up on YouTube or Google Photos, and I put the link to that album in the description box below. So if you guys like to go back, say I'll have some more photos up by Sunday, but you can go back there and take a look at them. Like I said, one of the I'm sure we will see over the life of this channel, we will see other samples that are just as dynamic and beautiful. But up until now, the excitement was this one was very similar to the excitement I had when we saw the sample from Delray, Florida, and we saw our first forems included in it. So, any other questions before we go?
They said something about emeralds, or did you see emeralds?
7 emeralds or 7-Up glass.
Yeah.
I would doubt that they are either. I think they are probably quartz that has chromium mixed in. Chromium is what gives it that green color that makes it emeralds. These mountains probably don't produce that any more than they produce the rubies. Something this looks, like I said, looks like a ruby, but it's probably not. It's probably quartz with some other minerals mixed in, and the same with the green. We did see some translucent green, but they fractured like quartz. Emeralds don't fracture the same way that quartz does. And so it looked more like quartz, and if it's got chromium in it, it'll give it that emerald green color. As a matter of fact, do you have your helenite?
Not on today.
Shelley has a ring that was made from minerals that came from St. Helens, and when they create the stone from it, it comes out with green. The implication is it's got a lot of chromium in it.
Not that they could see it anyway.
Why?
Because it's green.
Oh, good point. That's good. I haven't thought about
invisible.
That. And we go invisible. All right. Let me see. Let's see if we can get this without. And.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today on World Sand Project, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. As you can tell, I loved this sample. I hope you loved it as much as I did, because it is just so unique. And if you ever want to do this yourself on a microscope, and you happen to have access to a microscope, you can order them on eBay. Who knew, right? Everybody, and there's lots of them. Oh, I should remind you, there is no show next Wednesday because it is Christmas Day, but we'll be back on next Friday, the 27th.